my name is Liliana. I am the creator of Lili B Made custom apparel, which is my tie-dye company.
That's amazing. Please tell me how you got started.
Well, pretty much like a quarantine passion project, I guess I would call it, of like, last spring, everything shutting down with the pandemic. I was working from home from my job, and I live in Chicago. My parents live in like the west suburbs. So in working from home, I kind of like use that opportunity to go back home more often, to just like stay at my parents' house, have more company, be with like my dog, my brother, and kind of just like looking for a hobby, something to entertain myself. I think in that time, like puzzles were really big and like all these different little like at home games, because people were kind of just going a little crazy, having nowhere to go. And I was seeing a lot of like tie-dye stuff and like videos and tutorials, and it kind of really interested me of like, oh, maybe I can try that. Like I saw the products at my local store, ordered the pieces. Like white pieces were really hard to find because I think like a lot of people were on the same boat. But just kind of started playing with it, and I made myself this gray like sweat set. And like I was in love with it. I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. Like it's beautiful. But then my friends were like, that's beautiful. Like that, like, can you make me one? They're like, I'll commission you to like make me something of like similar. And I was like, really? Like, okay, like yeah, that's kind of how it started. And, then it kind of just turned it into like posting it on my Instagram story of like, hey, like I've been making these things, like me not really thinking anybody would be that interested of like, oh, this person I know like is just making these things at home. And people actually messaged me, and surprisingly, like people that weren't in my super close circle, it was like, friends from like high school or like people that I was kind of out of touch with, but saw what I was making and were interested in buying it. So it kind of just like grew from there. And I had a lot of moments of like, should I do this? Like make this an official thing? Or, are people even going to want this like from me? Or, like that, all those little thoughts in my head. But yeah, I just like pulled the plug one day and like made the Instagram, landed on Lili B Made as like the name, just pretty straight to the point of like me making things. And here we are, like 2021, and we're lots of colors on the site, or on the page I should say. A lot of people wearing tie-dye that I don't know if they would have worn tie-dye normally or not, but that's kind of where we're at now. I'm like, this is really just like the perfect time for something like this, of like, everybody's loungewear everywhere. Like every store has to have loungewear now, because like so many people are working from home, or just like spending more time at home on the weekends, or when they have that time off, and you just want to be comfortable. But at first, when I was working from home, if I wasn't on camera, like I was just sitting in my pajamas on, like at my desk, like comfortable. And then kind of started realizing like, like more sweatpants would be nice, like just something cuter that I
Yeah.
want to actually like step out in. So yeah, that's how we got to be here.
What's your plan? Like how are you going to be moving forward? Do you think you'll pursue this full time?
Yeah, so that is something, with like this interview being brought up, is something that I've been like reflecting on, I think a lot more, because I started very much of like, I'm gonna do this, like worst case, nobody wants anything. And like I make myself a couple of pieces, and my friends like, we'll go as long as the ride allows us to.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, I'm so in love with this feeling of having a business to manage. And, I think there's a lot that I've learned, and still so much more to learn with managing a business. I mean, like you have your business, like I'm sure you understand too. But it's so satisfying, just like having that ownership and that satisfaction when somebody wants to place an order from you. And it's so different because it's like you're like hand making things too. So it's like that self-doubt is always there, like, oh, like I hope this is what you envision. I hope you're gonna love it. And then when they actually do, it's like that feeling full circle. So, like I have no idea, like I think like the trends are gonna shift as far as like tie-dye goes. Like tie-dye has come in and out of style, I feel like specifically, but I've definitely had that thought on my mind of like, what else can I do as a business that could either bounce off of what I've created here or continue through more fluidly or just like completely different shift. I'm just like in that little unknown arena, which I'm okay with it being an unknown still. I feel like I'm enjoying what I'm doing now and kind of living it through as far as like the public will allow me to. But that has been on the back of my mind of, like what's next? Cause I do still work full time. So this isn't my livelihood, which kind of makes it a little different as far as like pressure, I would say, to have that plan. But I just love the feeling of managing something and like owning something that I would love to obviously have like this be my livelihood, but how could I get to that point is kind of what's in my mind now. Where we go from here.
That's exciting though. That's
Yeah.
really exciting. Just starting. When did you start exactly? Do you remember?
It was like last spring, I want
Okay.
to say like spring into summer, like end of May, June. I would say it was really convenient because I could work outside. I was working out of my parents' house a lot too. Like, bless them for lending me their space to have my mess basically of like dye outside and stuff. And so yeah, so it was like during the nicer weather, which, now I've had to move indoors with the winter in Chicago, like can't be outside. But I've like moved into their basement area. So yeah, they've been very, very great supporters along the way, I would say, in lending me their space. Cause they're just like, I don't know if I could do this out of an apartment as efficiently, at least. It
Yeah.
would take a lot more work.
That is so cool. So you have had like a great support system then, which is nice.
Yeah.
That's really
Oh,
nice.
absolutely. Yeah. Like my family, my friends, I could never say that I did this on my own. Like, yes, I do the dyeing and like a lot of the like planning and purchasing, but I'm always bouncing ideas off like my family, my friends, like, hey, like, they're kind of like my little market research group of like, what do you think of these colors? Or like, what do you think of this like packaging and like all these ideas? And then like my parents are always like, how can we help you? Like what can we do? And I'm like, you guys are so sweet. And I'm like, I think I'm okay most of the time, but like, sometimes my dad will like help me bring stuff in if like things are heavy or anything like that. So definitely like a community affair to make this like what it is.
Oh, it's so nice. I mean, I just see that you're gonna continue to grow
Yeah,
because you
I
are.
hope.
I like keep seeing all of the things you're putting out, and that's so pretty.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. It's so pretty, and I feel like you have like a great clientele.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm so thankful. Like I'm always worried like someone's gonna get their package and be like angry and just like rip me apart online. And like I've had like little issues of, like if there was like a little dye that like it wasn't what they envisioned. And I'm always happy to work that out or come to like an arrangement. It's not like, oh, final sale, take it, never talk to me again type of ordeal. But everyone's always so nice. Like it takes a while to like make the tie-dye pieces. So, like I always tell people like, it's going to be like 2 weeks, like it's made to order. Like I can't just crank this out overnight for you, but everyone's so patient and understanding. And then once they get their pieces and they give me that feedback that they're like so happy with it, or even when they want more, I'm like, really? Like you liked it enough that you want to buy more? Like I'm so touched.
I know. That's awesome. Such a great feeling.
Yes, it is beautiful. I love that feeling of like when someone takes the time to like post a picture of like what they bought, or even people who like aren't purchasing but are sharing my post and like want to put it out there to the world. I'm like, wow, like you really see something here that you want to take the time to like put your community like in front of this, like even if you're not necessarily purchasing, or that's something that like I'm never offended if like someone reaches out and then opts to not buy something. But I think it's so beautiful to just have that support, even, and it's like strangers, like people that I don't know in person, but now I just feel like so close to them. And it's so interesting to have that feeling too, because like I'm communicating so much, like, making sure that I'm getting the vision of what they want, especially if it's like a custom order. I want to make sure like they understand the fit of the pieces, like the color options that they can choose from. So you have that like little back and forth communication too, just like creating the piece that they want, that I'm like, I feel like I know you. Even though all I did was make you some tie-dye, but like that, it's so beautiful to like have that feeling with like strangers basically.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is. It's like your own little community.
Yeah.
How has it been managing Lili B Made and then your full-time job?
I think it's been pretty okay. There's been times where there's like some overlap that I'm like, trying to multitask too much. Like my first job, like my hours are very set like on weekdays. So a lot of the time I'm working, and then evenings after dinner, like I'm tie-dyeing through the night, just kind of like building my schedule. And I don't mind it. I think like I like doing the work on the weekdays because I'm kind of already in like a working mindset. Whereas like on the weekends, I'm trying to just like recharge a little bit more. Um, but I think it's been balanceable. Like I set the turnaround time with people too, to make sure that I'm not overwhelming myself to push something out sooner than I can actually physically handle. So I think it's been like a pretty good balance so far with like the timing. There's been times, I think like around the holidays was the only time where it got a little rough because I had a little bit higher of a volume of orders than I'm typically used to handling. So there were definitely some late nights, like, like midnight, 1 a.m., like finishing up my tie-dye work and like, oh, I have work at 8 a.m. Like I need to go to sleep. Like, but it's a little easier also like working from home. Like I'm just waking up to log on to my computer. I don't have a commute to think about. So that's also aligned nicely to make a lot of these things more doable too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. How are you like managing everything? You do everything yourself, right? Packaging and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, but then it's like, oh, my printer's not working. I ran out of ink. Like, I have to run to the post office to drop all these off, and I want to like do it early. It can get a little hectic. I try my best to plan so that I'm not like at the last minute trying to do things. That it's not always a perfect system, but it's fun, like picking out packaging and like wrapping things up nicely. Like I've gotten feedback, they're like, I feel like I'm opening a present. I'm like, good. Like I want you to feel like that. Like I hand write my cards, and like sometimes my hands are like tired, but I'm like, no, like it feels more personal to send it this way of like, like I put my heart and soul into this. Like maybe to you it's just a sweater, but to me it's like a little piece of me that I'm sending out, and like really with a lot of love
Yeah.
in this. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yes, it's like my little baby, this business. So it's brought me, I think, so much joy, honestly. Like, and I never would have thought that I'd be in this position. I think like being in a pandemic has created a lot of changes for a lot of people, like good and bad.
Mhm.
I've just kind of taken it as like a focus on the good for me personally, taking out like this opportunity of like, I have this extra time in my life. Like thankfully my family has been safe and healthy. We've been very careful under like the conditions of like quarantine and distancing. um but this has brought me like a lot of joy. I think it's filled in a lot of time for me too, of just like getting this creative energy out of my system, and being able to like consider myself somebody that's creative, I think has been a little bit of a journey. Like I was, that's like another thing I was reflecting on of like, yeah, like I'm a creative person. Like I did graphic design like when I was in college, just for like casual like student groups, but I never thought of myself as like somebody that's in the arts or, that type of person. Cause I would always love drawing as a kid, but I don't think I was like good at it to actually go anywhere with that. But I liked it. And so I think I've like found different ways to get out that creative energy that like I don't get naturally in my day-to-day life. So that's just been like a huge like discovery of myself and just like satisfaction. Um, from this year, and like all the things that lined up to happen the way they did have really enabled this, along with like the support that I've had. So I'm just really thankful, I think, at the end of the day, to even have the opportunity to do this. Like, I think it's like a very special feeling. And like I said, there's a lot of unknowns for the future, at least like longer term. But I think for like the near term, there's still a lot to look forward to, like new colors, new items to work on with the season, and just kind of like seeing around me how I can transform to keep this going, and just keep creating things somehow.
You will. And I think you have such a strong community already that
Mhm.
so many people are going to want to continue to come back to you for new pieces, especially like seasonal stuff.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Ending anytime soon.
Yeah, literally. So there's so much potential. Yeah, just like picking the route I want to take at the end of the day.
Yeah, you'll find it. I'll come to you.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice that you would want to give our audience?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like if you have that passion or, thing that you love creating, just kind of do it. Like put it out there. I think you'd be surprised how receptive the world is to these creations by small businesses. That's been something so beautiful, that I've found this like community of like fellow small businesses. Like we're all just rooting for each other, like even if we're in the same type of like market or industry, we're all just like very happy to see. And there's so much room in this world for you to step in, like even if you feel like, oh, that's already being done. Like nobody has a monopoly over a market or industry, and like you can always offer something different, because it's coming from you, and like you are yourself a unique person. So your point of view, your taste, your ideas are going to be a reflection of like who you are at the end of the day. And I think it's like you're going to be surprised to see how the world will receive that. So, if there's people out there that are thinking about it, just do it. Like you don't have to start huge and have like a storefront or a website even. Like you can really start small and just play it by ear and like kind of transform as needed. And that would be the other advice I would say. Just have that willingness to transform with like the feedback you get from people. Really listen. Because yeah, I think like at the end of the day, like if you are willing to do those things and just kind of go for it, it's going to work itself out, and that open-mindedness you'll be thankful for it. I think like looking back, like I'm so happy that I took the plunge and just did it, because I never thought that I could even get to this point. And I think like looking to the future, I'm going to have that same feeling of like 2021 started and like we had no idea this could happen type of feeling. So yeah, I would say just like go for it.